Peace, family. We are back and we are talking reality transurfing today, man. And, if you're somebody that loves personal development, topics like reality transurfing, manifestation, and stuff like that, man, stick around. This video is going to be extremely valuable to you. Make sure you watch it all the way to the end. All right, y'all. MJ the Mastermind, we are back, y'all. So I got something that I really want to go over with y'all today. I know it's going to add a lot of value to you. All right. So we're going to be talking about the rustle of the morning stars, which is something that Vadim talks a lot about, in the beginning chapters of the book. But I want to really, really dive into this. And, I know this is going to be really, really good for y'all. Right. So what is the rustle of the morning stars really? Right. So Vadim describes it as a subtle whisper of the soul or from the soul. It's like our higher self, higher level consciousness pretty much guiding us towards the fulfillment of our vision and maintaining the desired lifeline, right? Ultimately, it's your desired reality. And our inner self kind of nudging us and guiding us to the right actions, the right steps, the right decisions and behaviors that will ultimately get us there, all right? So it is not loud emotion, anxiety, urgency, fear, excitement, or ego-based ambition. It is a quiet knowing, light, almost neutral prompting, a calm inner nudge, a sense of this feels right. Now, we all have these moments where we just get this thought, right? We get a thought to do something, to take an action, to go somewhere. And, one of the things that led me to this was like, man, where are these thoughts coming from? And what is the purpose of these inner thoughts that seem like they're guiding me, personally in my situation to a specific outcome, right? So what is that voice that you're hearing, right? Now, this is really, really important, y'all. I think y'all are going to really love this. So there are three possible sources of internal thoughts. I'm just looking at my notes here, right? There are three possible sources of internal thoughts, right? The one is the mind. So number one is our own mind and our conditioned programs. We talked a lot about this, in a recent video where I talked about, wash your brain or you'll be brainwashed. If you didn't see that, go back and watch that. Because I talk about how throughout life we just get conditioned with these set of programs, right? Now, typically, the thoughts that come from the programs that we've just been programmed through life, right? Whether through our environment, through people around us, our parents, the school system, television, the news, all of these conditioned programs throughout life. And these thoughts usually are fear-based, based on social conditioning, are pendulum-driven, meaning that, they're concepts and ideas that you get sucked into to really just steal your attention and your energy, and sometimes can feel urgent or dramatic, okay? So we want to decipher the types of thoughts that we're getting so that we can better be in alignment with the thoughts that are actually guiding us to the outcomes that we desire. Okay, so the first source is our mind and our own conditioned programs. The second is our ego, right, which is focused on attachment and control. Okay, usually the ego shows up as like, I must do this or else, or if I don't act now, I'll lose everything, or an inflated emotional charge. Okay, so first is our conditioned program. Second is our ego. Okay, and a lot of times ego thoughts can be, driven by pride, greed, jealousy, ultimately emotions that aren't on that high frequency scale, like love, gratitude, abundance, these type of feelings and emotions, right? And then there's the rustle, right, which is our soul, our higher coordination, our higher consciousness. And that usually comes and feels like calm, clarity, no excess emotion. It feels simple. It feels obvious after you hear it. Now, the rustle does not argue, it does not panic, it does not pressure, it just suggests. So, if you're at a time in your life where you're seeking clarity, you're seeking direction, you're seeking guidance, a lot of times the answer is just within. But you have to really get silent. You really have to dive deep within yourself. I said this recently, the questions that we're looking for are often in the silence that we're avoiding. So you have to, enter into the right state, to get access to, these thoughts and this guidance, so to say, right? But sometimes it can just come to you and you know it. And a lot of times it shows up as repetitive thoughts, right? So usually when we have like a guiding thought, or if higher consciousness is trying to move us in a certain direction, usually it doesn't just happen once, right? It's something that is a repetitive thought, right? Usually it's something that comes back time and time again. It's not just something that just shows up once. And we all have those repetitive thoughts, right? You just have to sit down and think and, eat the frog, right? Like address it, face it head up. But right now in your life, there's something that's playing in your mind repeatedly that's pushing you in a certain direction, that's pushing you to do a certain action, that's pushing you to change a certain habit or release something in your life that just does not belong anymore. Okay? And that shows up by way of thought. But you have to have the certain level of awareness to be able to. You have to have the certain level of awareness to be able to receive it. Okay? And when Vadim talks about the rustle of the morning stars, it's a very, very important lesson, because in order to get on that correct lifeline and to manifest the version of reality that you want to manifest, you have to live in alignment and congruent with that. And the only way that you can know what to do in order to live in alignment and be congruent with that is to listen to the rustle. To listen to the rustle, all right? And it is a metaphor, right? I love the way that he writes. It is a metaphor. The rustle of the morning stars is that, like, that quiet voice internally that's guiding you, right, y'all? So it's very, very important that we have the correct level of awareness to be able to listen to that, because the universe always wants to take the path of least resistance, meaning that the reason that it's guiding you in that certain direction, to take that certain action, to develop or remove that certain habit, is because it's the path of least resistance to your goal, to the achievement of what you want to accomplish. And that's not something that we know. It's not something that we can see, what the path of least resistance is, right? But higher consciousness can, right? So if you're getting guided to do whatever it is, and you feel like it's coming from the right place, right? It's not ego. It's not from your conditioned programs throughout life, but just this calm nudging. It's very, very important that you listen to that, because that is the path of least resistance to your goal, right? And in certain communities, they call this being obedient, right? Being obedient, listening to that voice, listening to that guide, and removing the things from your life that you know you need to remove, and putting in your life the things that you need to put in, whether that's new habits, whether that's new relationships, and so on. Okay? So remember, y'all, listen to the rustle, but make sure it's coming from the right place. Make sure it's not coming from your mind and the conditioned programs that you already have, or your ego, or that the ego that's always trying to be in control, and always attached to the outcome, right? Now, this is also in alignment with what we talked about in terms of being consciously congruent and the topic of conscious congruency. When we are listening to the rustle and that inner voice, that inner knowingness, it's very, very important that we live congruent with that, right? And I've already described why that's important, because that's the path of least resistance to your goal. So conscious congruency is the action that is required to live in alignment with that rustle of the morning stars. Okay? Now, how do you test if it's the rustle? If this thought, if this inner knowing and guidance is coming from the right place? The first step is you have to remove emotion. Okay? So sit still, release attachment, relax the pelvic floor, which is something that we'll get to as a little bit of an advanced, tactic that I've learned over the years. Slow your breathing. Now replay the thought. Now, does the thought still feel true? If yes, then it's likely, consciousness guiding you. If it fades, likely it may be like an ego spike or conditioned program, right? Another thing is look at long-term expansion, okay? So soul guidance expands your long-term lifeline. Our mind and our ego, that guidance protects short-term comfort, okay? So whatever that may be in your life, all right, listen to it, right? Listen to it, follow the guidance, and it puts you on a much better path and lifeline to achieving your ultimate vision in life, right? Now, keep in mind that when we start to do this, when we start living in alignment, when we start living congruently, it will take some time for the mirror to catch up, okay? So the way the mirror of life and reality works is you can't start thinking differently today and everything changes tomorrow, right? There's a natural gestation period of the universe. So you have to allow time. You have to allow the mirror of reality to catch up, right? So don't get discouraged if you're currently not getting the results that you want, because your current results are just a reflection of a past frequency and vibration. Now, as you go through the process of shifting your frequency, your energy and vibration, the mirror of reality will eventually catch up, because it's universal law, okay? So don't get discouraged if you don't see immediate results, if you don't see immediate change in situations and circumstances, because the mirror of reality has a delay, okay? And you have to be consistent in holding that frequency, okay? All right, y'all. Man, this was good. I kind of tried something different, today. Instead of just taking a quote and, elaborating on it, I kind of give you guys access to one of my personal development sessions. Like, this concept, this idea was just me studying. It just came from me studying and asking the right questions. So I hope this was valuable to you all. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, or don't. It's up to you. But I do hope that you got value from this. I hope this was able to shift your perspective, raise your consciousness and frequency. All right, we're going to keep the videos coming. I appreciate everybody that taps in. Much love, peace, and abundance, y'all. To the next one.